Okay, with that, we can begin to take questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And again, please send me an email so that we can talk about these things in more detail. And I hope that you have learned something today. And as I said, my purpose is to activate you so that you no longer consider it sufficient just to come to meetings. You've got to do something. And you've got to do something to get the Republicans to take a stand on this. Because, folks, if the Republicans don't save us, nobody will. We're going to lose. Yes, sir.
When you look around this room, the gender, ethnicity, age,
Yes.
you made the point that they are organized and we are not.
Yes.
How do we change the demographic of something like this to have?
There's no magic way to do that. You must go out and convince people about the truth about Islam, and you do that by quoting the Islamic sources. That's the only authoritative way to do that. If you do it in your own name, say that Islam is this or Islam is that, they'll simply dismiss you. Because who are you to tell us what Islam is? But if you say that, well, here's this leading Islamic religious authority in the world says such and such, or their holy book, the Quran, says such and such, that's more authoritative. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little confused. I mean, you're talking
A little louder, please.
I'm a little confused. You're talking about Muslims and Muslims.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you asked that.
And the authorities. And I would
Okay.
love to know who
We all grew up with the word Muslim, M-O-S-L-E-M, as the standard word for a follower of Islam, right? That used to be the standard word in English. And in fact, the Muslim world itself used the word Muslim, M-O-S-L-E-M. However, in the last 40 years or so, under the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood and of their front organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations, they are trying to get everybody to use the word Muslim, however, pronounced Muslim, not Muslim, M-U-S-L-I-M with a hard S, Muslim, because that more closely approximates the Arab pronunciation. There's no difference in terms of the meaning of the word that means a follower of Islam. And if you look in any dictionary, you will see them as equivalent, that there's nothing derogatory about Muslim. However, Muslim is no longer politically correct. I use it because that's the way I grew up, and I don't want them telling me how to use my language. And I can even show you, in fact, signs from Saudi Arabia, road signs, where they divide the traffic because non-Muslims are not allowed to go to Medina or to Mecca. And so you have to get them off the road. And the signs say Muslims, M-O-S-L-E-M, this way, and non-Muslims that way. Those are perhaps older signs. They've now been changed to Muslims, M-U-S-L-I-M, this way, and non-Muslims that way. But the fact is they exist. And in fact, I have a translation of the Hamas Charter from 1988, where they use the word Muslim as an English translation. So it's kind of mixed. But these days, you will find many defenders of Islam, not just Muslims, but using their hands, non-Muslims, who will criticize you for using the word M-O-S-L-E-M, and they say, well, that's not correct. Well, it is correct. And in fact, if you Google M-O-S-L-E-M / M-U-S-L-I-M, you will be taken to an article which explains all of what I'm telling you here. I urge you to do that. So, you can use either word. Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about not being organized, and very much true, and you look at the areas that the Islamists are targeting, particularly it's the Jewish communities.
Yes.
And even here in Phoenix, the Chabad rabbi has kind of befriended the Muslims, and you see tapes of I'm a Jewish kid, I'm a Muslim kid, we have the same values, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But I've never known a Jewish kid to be taught to commit a suicide bombing or any of those kinds of things, or be told that they're going to have the coming of the Messiah by blowing up a bunch of people.
Well, you're talking about the kind of interfaith activities.
Yeah.
We need to mention also, in the Muslim Brotherhood program for taking over America, interfaith sessions are part of their strategy.
Right. Why do the Jews not get that, though?
I'm sorry?
Why do the rabbis not get that?
Why don't they get it? Not only rabbis, it's the pastors and the priests also. They don't get it because they've never read the Quran. They've never heard my lectures. for example, so they don't know about Islam. They think you just have to be nice to people, and they will be nice back to you.
But it hasn't worked for
So,
you.
and it hasn't worked that way, and it never will. During World War II, nobody talked about being nice to the Nazis so they would stop making war against us. Nobody would even think of doing anything like that. Well, it's not going to work with Muslims either, because they follow the Quran. They follow what their God says, not what you say. And so the interfaith sessions, has anyone ever attended one? Okay. I've attended a number of them. And it's always the same way. It starts out with a Christian, either a pastor or a priest, apologizing for something that the Christians did hundreds and hundreds of years ago, like the Crusades or the Inquisition. It's followed then by the rabbi who apologizes for something the ancient Hebrews did 3,000 years ago, like chopping down someone's olive trees. I actually heard the rabbi saying that. I'm not making that up. And then comes the Muslim representative, who may or may not be an imam. Usually it's a representative of the community and not an imam. And that person never, ever apologizes about anything. Muslims don't apologize about anything, especially to non-Muslims. So it's always the same way. And what is being done here in this interfaith movement, and as I say, this is part of the Muslim Brotherhood program, and I can show you where it says that in their programs. The idea is to co-opt the Jewish and Christian clergy to tell their congregations that Islam is a religion of peace. In other words, to neutralize us in the struggle against Islam, and they have been remarkably successful with this. There's a whole little booklet about using interfaith sessions for this purpose called Bridge to Nowhere, and I'll be happy to give you the data on that if you send me an email. So yes, watch out for the interfaith sessions. By the way, it used to be until a couple of years ago that they had open questions at these interfaith sessions. And then I used to make use of that with several of my activists. We would go to these sessions and then ask questions. And the questions would not be designed really to get answers, but would be designed to let the audience know that they are not learning about Islam what they ought to be learning about. In other words, we would give them quotations from the Quran and from Muhammad. Well, the organizers of these events got wise, and they no longer have open questions, at least the ones that I've experienced. You're supposed to submit your questions on a card, and then they will choose which questions they want to ask. And obviously they will filter out anything which has a negative implication for Islam. So watch out for the interfaith sessions, they're deadly. And then as part of the Muslim Brotherhood program of using the hands of the non-Muslims to promote Islam, you will find, we call them useful idiots in the service of Islam. The term useful idiot is not just name-calling, it's a political term which means that people are being used by the totalitarian leaders of this movement. And they're being used because they are naive and they think they're serving a higher moral cause when in fact they're simply being used to promote this totalitarian system. It was the same under the communists. They had lots of fellow travelers who basically wanted to see a better society, and so they aligned themselves with the communist movement, not realizing that they were supporting totalitarian communism. Same thing is happening with Islam. Today, lots of useful idiots, like the folks at the San Diego School District, like the folks at the City University in New York, and many other places, including the Pentagon. They are useful idiots because they are, in fact, working in service of Islam, to promote Islam, without realizing what they're doing. Yes, ma'am?
The Muslims that say they're not following the religion, couldn't they just be lying and they're waiting for the time?
Could they be lying? Yes, they could.
Because the Quran says that to do that.
Yes, there is a provision in the Quran, you're absolutely correct about that, where Muslims are in fact required to lie if they promote the triumph of Islam. And according to this manual of Sharia law I have, there's a whole chapter on permissible lying. And one of the permissible lies is to make your listener think something that you know is not true. And so yes, that is exactly what they do. And it says that if you can achieve your goal, your Islamic goal, by not lying, then you must not lie. But if the only way to achieve the Islamic goal is to lie, then you must lie. The important thing is achieving the Islamic goal, and that is world dominance. So anything that supports world dominance of Islam is legitimate, including lying to do that. And yes, that's why I mentioned never go to a Muslim spokesman for the truth about Islam. They won't tell you. They will tell you what they want you to hear. They will tell you that Islam is a religion of peace and that jihad really means just spiritual self-improvement. So you go to the Islamic sources to find out what Islam is all about. Yes?
As a women's group, I guess I have another question. For those of us who are, well, obviously, the majority of us in this room are women, and also those of us who have daughters, granddaughters,
A
etc.
little louder, please.
For those of us who are, since we're a women's group, could you address, like right now in Tucson, on the university campus, through nextdoor.com, they have a get to know your Muslim neighbor.
Oh.
And what my daughter, just for the heck of it, and I've gone over the stuff and she knows, but she decided to go and see what it was about because it was
Yes.
kind of ticked her off that they would even get campus time.
Yes.
And when she went there, they had a bunch of young Muslim men who were
Yes.
hitting on and attempting to date her and every one of her friends that went
Yes.
there. And,
Well, young men do that anyway.
well,
But here,
probably,
and
but
here
it's,
it's for the purpose of.
but her thought was is it was like getting the women to come, getting the invitation out
Yes.
on nextdoor.com, following up with because they know that they're girls, and if you go on nextdoor.com, they know the girl's address.
Yes.
And so not only that, but they can follow them home. They know where they live from that.
Yes.
They can, if they
Be
say
careful.
the wrong things, like ask the wrong questions, they can become targets.
Be
She's
careful.
had someone knock on her door and pretend like he was
Yes.
a private investigator after she attended that. So maybe you could address that to the
Well,
protest.
always be careful, because we know that their goal is to take over the country. And you do that by becoming stronger. You make the community stronger. Make use of that next door neighbor. I've got that up in Glendale where I live. And you could put comments on there to educate the other people on that website about Islam. You can give them a quotation from the Quran or from Muhammad now. So get to know your next door neighbor. You can ask them, well, do the Muslims really believe this? Give them the passage from the Quran or Muhammad. Do they really believe that? Because that's what their sacred text says. Keep it short. Put in one quotation from the Quran or one from Muhammad, and that's all. Because that will then let the other people on the website know that there's something about Islam that they're not being told at these get to know your Muslim neighbor. Do your Muslim neighbors believe this and this and this from the Quran? I would think that's a good approach. By the way, you can do another thing that you can all do is use online websites for leaving readers' comments on articles about Islam. Very effective way to get the message out to other people, because lots of people read these comments, and the purpose of your comment is not to start arguments, but to educate the other readers on that website. Give them a quotation from the Quran. Give them a quotation from the Muslim Brotherhood documents, or from Muhammad, or from Islamic religious authorities, and again, I'll send you a whole collection of these statements which you can then use. That will help educate our fellow citizens, and we absolutely must do that. Consider yourself missionaries to educate our fellow citizens about Islam, and one very good way to do that is to leave online comments. Yes?
Yeah, I know like maybe some people already know the difference, but like I'm still confused on this. You mentioned the Sunni terrorist. Oh, at the beginning of your speech, you mentioned the Sunni terrorist. What's the difference between the Sunni and the Shiite? It's like
Between Shia and Sunni?
Sunni and Shiite. Yeah.
Okay. There are two sects in Islam, that's S-E-C-T-S, and one is Shia and one is Sunni. The Sunnis make up approximately 90% of the Muslim world, and the Shiites are approximately 10%, maybe 12% and 88%. The Shiites are in control of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they have a majority in Iraq, and they have a minority in Syria, and they have a large minority in Lebanon. Hezbollah, you've heard of Hezbollah, terrorist organization. They are Shiite, they're proteges of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Sunnis, who make up the vast majority of the Muslim world, they have exactly the same notion of jihad, war against non-Muslims, Sunnis, the Shiites do. They have the same. Like, you can check that by looking at the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran, where they talked about their ideological jihad, spreading Islam to the world. That is exactly what the Muslim Brotherhood says. Exactly. And they even quote the same passage in the Quran to justify it. What's the difference between them? Well, it started about 1,400 years ago. One group of Muslims, after Muhammad died, wanted the leader of the Muslim world to be a direct relative of Muhammad. Another group wanted anybody to become the successor of Muhammad who is a loyal Muslim. And the ones who wanted anybody, those were the Sunnis. The ones who wanted the direct relative of Muhammad became the Shiites. There's not a whole lot of difference between them as far as we are concerned, because they are both our enemies. They both want Islam to take over the world. However, because the Sunnis are the vast majority, they think that the Shiites are heretics, because they don't agree with these particular things. And there's a few other items also. The Shiites, the ones in Iran, believe that their imams are a little closer to God than the rest of humanity is. And that is anathema to the Sunnis, who believe that all people, all human beings, are equally slaves of Allah, and that even the most respected Islamic religious authority is no closer to God than any other mortal. So this is another thing. The Shiites also revere their imams, kind of even erect shrines to them and visit the shrines. This is absolutely anathema to the Sunnis. So for reasons like this, which don't concern us, the Sunnis consider the Shiites to be heretics, and they have no problem bombing the Shiite mosques and funeral processions and so on. You start to see this going on in Iraq all the time, where where ISIS and the other Sunni rebels will go around killing Shiites. In Pakistan, also frequently it happens that the Sunnis will bomb a Shiite mosque. And of course, it sometimes works the other way too. The Shiites don't like being bombed. In Islam, you've got the law of retaliation. So if somebody does something to me, I have a right to do it to that person. In fact, in the Quran it says, a free man for a free man, a slave for a slave, and a female for a female. So if somebody kills a female in my clan, I have a right to go kill a female in their clan. And that's their God speaking and giving me that